One of my favorite books that I love reading. When I tell people this, they're like, "What?" I love the ancient books and the Vedas and stuff like that. I love reading and gathering knowledge and seeing deepness from a time pass, if you will. And one of the richness of your culture and your background is that they are aware and have been aware of the spiritualness of man, whereas you come from the Western side, they don't teach none of that stuff, and all they talk about is the material things. And here you are as a young individual exposed to the spiritualness of the man, the spirit man housed within this shell, if you will. With that knowledge, how did it impact this young man where you have all of your family alluding to it? How did it begin to shape you and manifest in your life?
One of the things that impacted me was as I was reading these Sanskrit verses, I was mostly chanting them because they were taught to me at childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't knowing the meaning of these verses. Most of them were actually difficult to understand. So I knew the chanting, the shlokas, the verses, but not the meanings. I also liked the aspect that whenever I chanted those, it just brought a sense of peace and meaning to me. I really enjoyed it. Luckily, I did that for a long time, right from my maybe fourth grade, third grade, summertime, when my father kept teaching these things all the way until when I was graduating from high school and college. I did this every day for a few minutes. I realized that there was a sense of calmness, a grounded feeling whenever I was doing that every day. So there was definitely a different sense of awareness and a sense of calmness whenever I was involving in the chanting activity as well as reading scriptures. That really helped me a lot to figure out I don't have to react to my emotions. Very early in my childhood, that I don't have to react to emotions. So things happen around me, but I can decide how to respond. I wasn't aware of psychology, I wasn't aware of anything else, but there was a sense of groundedness to come back to and respond to life in a way that I want to respond.
Yeah, I spent some time in a ashram, and one of the things that I longed and I was trying so hard to get them to help me out was some of the chanting and some of the kirtans that they were singing. I had no understanding of the words and stuff like that, and I wanted understanding. I kept telling them, I need to understand, because my concept was that I was trying to from where I was coming from, that I want to understand what I'm singing so that I can attach my faith, my belief to it. I was singing, but I had no understanding, and it was difficult for me to to put it together, because again, I'm coming from a Western mentality, partaking in an Eastern ritual, and I was longing for that, and was not able to acquire it, and it broke my heart, because I would look at some of the folks that may have been longer in it, that maybe have a degree of surrendering to it, and I watched what
Mhm.
it was doing to them, and I wanted to be a part of it, but it was very difficult for me to do that. As this young man, you had mentioned that you did it, but the feeling of what you were doing, you were able to hold on to and to be your guide. And you said that you did that all the way to college. At what time did you begin to take that knowledge, that information, and an understanding of the your emotion? Because I love what you just said. I mean, that this young kid has learned a powerful lesson as to how to detach from emotions, but not allow it to control him, like, again, Western mentality. How did you marry them as one that is brought into the culture but doesn't understand some of the things that you're saying? How did you begin to surrender to the effect of what you were saying, but not understanding, but allowing it to change you.
I just went by experience. I wasn't really comparing with me, with other people, how other people are doing and what am I doing. I did not compare. I just went
Hmm.
by my own experience. How am I feeling inside and how I'm able to take all the learning that I got from these teachings. How do I apply that in my life? So, regardless of how people respond to me or in what context I am, can I apply what I know in these contexts? So, I kept thinking about it. And I did not worry about what people think about it. I would not go talk about these aspects. I would simply embody these behaviors. I would not talk about the principles or what I learned in some scriptures. I would not, because that is not what people would like to discuss. I just focus on being grounded, being a leader who knows his stuff, his internal world, and respond to the world as opposed to reacting to the world. This change of behavior itself made people curious about my approach to leadership, my approach to working and collaborating, and this sparked conversations. And during the conversation, I can also explain, look, we don't have to be reacting to our emotion. We can respond. We can say our perspective and listen to other people's perspective. So their curiosity led us to conversations. In conversations, I could explain my way of approaching things and situations. How do I respond to people and events?
Yeah, it's a powerful piece, man, that you had learned, because most of us from the Western mindset, we are so entangled with the emotions and stuff like that that we haven't learned what you had learned from a young age. And most of us on our across the river, if you will, we spend most of our growth untangling all of our emotions and trying to learn how to manage it. As someone that has been, I guess on our side, looking at yours from your background, you're ahead of the curve. Looking for, you're now living in California and so forth. Your mindset as far as the Westerner mindset. When you were in college, where were you located when you were in college? Was it in the States or were you at home?
It was in India. I lived in India until 2015. I'm here in the last 9 years.
Okay. And being there in India and having, you said once you began to allow the change to happen to you, and the changes, as people began to notice the changes, they began to gravitate to you. And how did you relate to them as a teacher now? This is a young man gaining wisdom and understanding about himself and emotions and so forth. How did you relay it to those that were coming, as you said, and were now engaging in a conversation with you concerning you?
I would ask them good questions. I like Socratic method. I read a lot of books on coaching, questions, and Socratic methods and Stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask them good questions like what's happening in their mind, how do they relate. Ultimately, it will boil down to some of their beliefs, whether they are from their parents or upbringing, childhood, or experiences. They would realize they had a belief, and that belief is triggering their emotion, and the emotion is triggering some action. So it's always there is this model called ABC in the West called antecedent, behavior, and consequence. ABC. B is always the belief. Your belief is the reason you're feeling bad about something. That's the real crux there. The belief itself is causing all the friction.
Yeah, and and I tell people that belief came from your perspective on that situation, and if you change your perspective, you'll change your belief, and you'll change your situation. So when you move to the United States, because I know this is a culture shock in many ways, because I remember moving to the United States and assimilating to now our culture, our mindset. How did that translation from that culture that focused and taught you about the separation of emotions and different things, how did you assimilate once you landed on our shores, as they say?
Yeah, I landed here with my family, my wife, and my son was 4 years back then when we landed in 2015. I already had a family to ground and
Mm-hmm.
have a great time with them. So, regardless of what was happening around me at the office, I knew I would come back and enjoy my time with the family. So, that's really important to ground yourself. So I had something to ground upon. The second thing is I already knew I kept traveling to the US every year, at least once or twice since 2003. I was with
Hmm.
Oracle, which is a software company. So since 2003, I've been coming here every year, at least once or twice. So I know the culture, I know how things work here. The one thing I learned very early is people have an individual mentality in the West, which means I matter a lot. It's all about me and
Yeah.
the expressing myself in the best form. I need to be self-expressive is all it is here. I had realized very early in my career that people are assertive. They want to assert themselves, which is fine. At the same time, we have to draw the line and say it's not all about me. There is something beyond me. And that is the reason I see a lot of people suffering. They may not have something to rely on. All these issue about loneliness and depression and not feeling great about their life, comparing to other people. I don't think these will come if you have a strong family values where you are always aware that you are never alone. Your birth itself, your upbringing is done by a few people. You're so grateful to what you have got in your life. If you have that as your backdrop of life, you don't have any ego challenges or any challenges with people because you know you cannot
Hmm.
live alone. You need people to be with. And
Yeah,
I
it's a
had that. I
fascinating.
had that back in India and then here. So I need
Yeah.
people around me. I'm not a single person on this planet. I live in a community.
Yeah, the cultures that, again, I'm from British Guiana, South America, and the culture, my mom is Indian, and the cultures that we came from, more so than in the Western civilization, will push the family. In the family, the Western civilization, they'll, again, each one of us come from different cultures. So you have these microcosms based on the culture and the person's family and stuff like that. Most of the Caucasian white American don't have that tightness like what we came from and what they're pushing the singleness and the stuff like that of just this one individual, and then they have to deal with all the drawback or fallback of that, and the loneliness and all of those different things. As